Alex was famous in his town for his expertise in rehabilitating troubled dogs, German Shepherds in particular. He had been a police dog handler for 15 years, having worked privately with aggressive and traumatized animals for another 10. He was wrapping up an appointment with another German Shepherd when he got a call from the local animal control service. The officer's voice sounded startled. They had an urgent need to help a dog who had spent nearly his entire life tied up outside. It was a sad story, but one that was all too common. There was a dog named Gray, and he had lived in a private home yard, chained by a heavy metal chain to a dog. Because Alex's car was in the shop, a veterinarian from an animal protection society drove him to his new home. They talked it over on the way, and even for someone as experienced as Alex was, it felt intimidating. The dog had no business being scared of people. To save himself, he got up and sniffed the air, realizing he had become a wild beast who would slaughter anyone in front of him. So when they showed up, Alex could see right away it was worse than what had been described. Gray, a big matter dog, began barking viciously when he saw humans. Even the veteran handler froze for a beat. The dog, hunched on its chain with teeth bared, poised to attack whoever dared approach. He has not allowed anyone near him for over a year, the owner said, maintaining a safe distance. I just put out a bunch of food and stepped back. Tried to pet him once. He nearly bit my hand off. The last time I replaced the chain, I surprisingly had to put sleeping pills in his food as it was impossible to approach. Alex pulled out some boiled meat from his bag, the technique that usually worked with aggressive dogs. But Gray didn't even look at the treat, continuing to bark and growl like a maniac. It was only when everyone fell back far enough that the dog swiftly snatched the food, all while keeping an eye on the unwanted guests. Alex spoke in stern commands and gentle coaxing, raising his voice and lowering it. But no matter what sound he made, Gray responded the same way with deafening barking. Now, when Alex was doing something, when he said something in a soft and calm voice, the dog's ears would faintly twitch as if he were trying to catch his words. Alex's clothing held the smells of other dogs. He had been at the kennel all day. Gray then stopped for a moment to sniff the air before breaking into an even angrier fit. Each time Alex moved forward an inch toward the dog, Gray leaped up, pulling the chain taut. The metal clanking reverberated across the yard, and at that point it seemed that the chain was either about to break down, or the dog would injure itself in its desperate attempts to reach the handler. We decided we needed to use a different approach. He slowly turned his back on the dog as though he was suddenly fascinated by something else in the yard. The barking stopped for a second, and was replaced by a low growl. The silence was something new, almost like confusion. For the next hour they worked to get closer to the dog. Alex approached so slowly, baby step by baby step. At times, he paused for 15 or 20 minutes for Gray to come to terms with his being at a fresh distance. The dog didn't yip anymore, but a growl never ceased. Any time Alex's hand approached the dog, aggression flared up again. But Alex sensed that when he kept his hand low and moved it slowly, Gray was watching with less tension. This was a dog whose eyes had a glimmer of curiosity in them. But this curiosity was at war with fear and anger and instinct. Even the seasoned handler had a grim thought at one point. Maybe the dog was so thoroughly traumatized. Euthanasia was the only humane option. But the notion was unfathomable to a man who had devoted his life to rescuing dogs. With one last option to try, Alex gave it a shot with his final lead. He waved everyone back as far back as they could go, then just sat down on the ground a couple of feet away from the doghouse. Time passed. The sun slowly began to set. Gray still growled, but his tone shifted. Now it was infused with doubt and inquiry. Why was this person not taking off? What was stopping him from getting closer? What did he want? An hour and a half later, I got. Dusk was settling in. Then something remarkable occurred. The dog stopped growling. Gray continued to watch Alex. Every time he moved, but his posture relaxed. His tail, previously tightly tucked underneath him, dropped a little. The snarl rescinded, but his lips curled slightly as a shuddering breath escaped through his teeth. Alex slowly pulled out a certain pole used for working with tough dogs. This was a critical moment. It was now or never. Any sudden movement might set off another eruption of aggression. For the time being, Gray let Alex close enough to free him from the chain. The dog's body twisted with tension, but he didn't try to attack. And when the huge chain dropped to the ground, something astonishing happened. It was as if there were an invisible spring inside the dog, and it had unwound. Gray froze, then took a tentative step, free for the first time in years. Gray strolled without attempting to bite or flee, and when Alex decided to spend a few extra hours with him, instead of taking him directly to the shelter, something miraculous happened. It was with the chain that Gray began to transform right before their eyes. Started with small changes. He loosened his posture and softened his gaze. Then Gray, for the first time, hesitantly sniffed Alex's outstretched hand, not to bite, but to explore. At the same time, his tail, still low, wagged a little. By evening, Gray had let Alex remain nearby, and in a matter of hours, the unimaginable unfolded. The dog walked up to Alex, wanting some love. Gray's walk morphed from stiff and tight to soft and cat-like. His shoulders untensed, and his tail sat higher with every passing hour. By the next day, he was a brand new dog, gentle, affectionate, and ready for people. When Alex sent images to the Animal Control Service, they thought it couldn't have been the same dog. The photos showed Gray peacefully lying beside a person eager to be petted. His eyes, when he turned to look at me, were not filled with fear or anger, but only peace and trust. No differentiated rehabilitation techniques were implemented. No medications. What had shifted in Gray's life was that the chain that had chained not only his movement, but also his mind, for so many years was removed. This story was yet more evidence of what Alex had been saying for years. Dogs on chains are not only cruel, they are incredibly dangerous. Statistics compiled by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show that chained dogs are nearly 3 times as likely to bite adults and 5 times as likely to bite children. But the big thing is that chains deny dogs the opportunity to be what they were designed to be, loyal companions to humans. Gray has already garnered interest from several families looking to adopt him. This is a story Alex tells in his lectures to highlight how far we must go in resisting the practice of chaining dogs. Sometimes all you need to do is remove the chains, both actual and mental, to save a life and show the dog's true personality. Whenever I encounter a chained dog, Alex said, I think of Gray's eyes, once full of fear, full of rage, and then gratitude and faith. And I know that nothing is impossible if you truly want to.